Come with me while I prepare my pond for the winter. Of course, you can see the leaves are beginning to fall, so it is time to take down the shade sail and put up the pond net for the winter. So the first thing we got to do is take down the shade sail. Then, got to remove all the stuff from the edge of the pond. So to put the net up, you have to have, on my pond, I have to have these supports for the PVC frame. This is 3/4 inch pipe with a 45-degree elbow. But to secure it in the ground, I put in a permanent pipe in the ground so I can just put it back in the same spot next year. I use a piece of copper pipe to pre-drill or tap my hole in for my PVC. And I would usually take a piece about 10 inches long. This is about 12. And I would drive that into the ground. And once it's all the way in the ground, all the way in, then I would take a deep well. This is a deep well coupling. And I would put this on the top. And the premise is you then take this 1/4 inch piece of pipe, and this stays in year round. And all I do every fall is put this piece of 1/4 inch in there, and I always have my placing for my pipes. And then what you're left with is these solid posts with a 45-degree elbow. And on my pond, which is 24 feet long, 14 feet wide, I am using 4. So because the PVC hoops that go over the pond need to be evenly spaced with the poles, the way I do that is I tie the string where the first hoop will be on the first post, and then I come down to the next post directly across, and I go ahead and tie it to the middle section, which will be my deep coupling, and that'll be at the center of the pond, over the center of the pond, with a 8-foot length that way and an 8-foot length on the other side. And then I come across to the next one, same thing, and then the next one, same thing, leaving enough rope on the end, on both ends, to tie it off tight. So now I have 2 8-foot lengths of 3/4 inch PVC. I'm using schedule 40 everything because it's stiffer than using drain pipe, but there are 2 pieces for each one of the poles. Alright, now I just take each 8-foot length and connect them to the post like so. Lay it across the pond like that. Take the next one. Now, as you can see, I have all the PVCs laid across the pond, 20 feet total with a thing, and each one is lined up with its post on the front side. So I went ahead and tied one of the ends off. In this case, I have a post on the end that my shade sail was connected to. And you have to have this one end tied off because you're going to use it to be able to pull each one tight as you go down the pond. And I'm going to show you how the other end is connected to the ground. So you can see this first one that I just pointed out is up, and it's an arch. And now we come to the second one, and I have to bend it up while keeping the rope tight at the top. And that will help me determine where to anchor it to the ground. I try to put the post, the piece of 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch rebar in the same angle that this PVC is running. And I put about half of it in the ground. Take the post off, stick it over. And that is it. And it is up and it is tight. So I got 3 of the 4 hoops up. And as you can see, you don't want to have them like dipped in the middle, either peaked in the middle and tapered off on the ends, or tapering from one side to the other, which is what I do. And on this last one, that length of pipe is too long. I've already cut one side. Now I'm going to cut the other side so that I have the right arch at this shorter end of the pond. So now I pull this cord tight and I go ahead and wrap it around this stake so I can see how tight and how far out to put it. You want a good angle so that the net can come down to the ground closer to the pond and not all the way out into the lawn. And you want this to be really secure because you do not want this coming loose, because this is what's holding the rest of the pond net on. So now that I got the frame up, which is the 4 PVC with a string that is tight, and notice, because my pond is shaped like a kidney bean, that the ropes down the middle are not straight. So the ropes, because that is shorter this way, it pushes that way. It doesn't matter if they're straight or not, it's still just as tight as it would. It's tight now, but once you put the net on it, which is like the skin, it's gonna tighten everything down much tighter. The way I store my pond net every year is I stretch it all the way down my driveway, and I literally twist the whole thing up really tight, and then I fold it on itself and then put it in a tote for the winter. But as you can see, this is the net, and it's actually doubled. It's doubled here. And this is it all untwisted. So I'll fold it up on itself and take it up to the pond. And I just wanted to reiterate that this tapers down from high on this side to lower on the other side. Or you can peak it in the middle, taper down on this end, peak in the middle, and taper down on the other end, just so you don't get weights and leaves in the middle that's gonna sink this whole thing down. So now I have the net laid out along the length of the whole pond, finding the edge that's gonna be on this side of the pond and laying it out along the actual edge of the pond. And I'm gonna show you how to secure it for pulling the net over. So you can secure this net to this little loop. I used a zip tie to zip tie just a loop of string on the pole, and then cut the excess zip tie off like that. And then I made makeshift hooks out of coat hanger material that I just loop through like this, and then I use that to hook into the net. And when I get ready to pull the net over, it will stay hooked and it'll hold it while I pull it from the other side. Now that the net is secured to all 4 posts on one side, and remember, I'm doing all of this by myself, so it's a pretty easy job for one person. I'm gonna put this on time lapse so you can see me do it, but I'll actually put the actual time that it takes for one person to pull this over the pond by themselves at the end. So I have the net secure on one side, and it is pulled over, but it's loose, still loose on the other side. Sorry. still loose over there. But we're gonna stake it down on that side tight. And I'm gonna start on one end and keep it tight all the way across to the other. So I do, when I'm staking the net down just to help with managing the leaves, I do take the net, the excess net, for me, and to make it easier for blowing leaves later, I roll it under to the inside like that, keeping the excess underneath the net, and then I stake it like so, inside the bed, not in the lawn. Sorry if I blocked the view. Like that. The waterfall can be a little tricky, so the net is tight here and I just pushed it down and I'll make a straight line, and then you can net the waterfall separate if you have to. And as an FYI, if you don't have the ability to do stakes and you happen to have a lot of big rocks, you can use big rocks to secure your net down. I like putting the net over the edge and securing it with stakes because handling leaves around rocks holding the net down, if you snag it with the rake later and the rock flips up, the net comes up, it's just less secure. The stakes are cheap. They're just tent stakes. I would just go ahead and get the little plastic tent stakes. A lot of the nets come with them, and it's just super easy. So the net is all up and it is tight. Yesterday these poles were flimsy when there wasn't any net on it, and now they barely shake. It is all tucked in for the fall. Sorry, I'm losing my light here, but they're all tucked in for the fall and the winter. If during the you want to get in, do stuff with the fish, it's still super easy to access the fish. You just come to one of your poles where you did the hook, and you just take the hook and unhook the net and go underneath it. Take two of them off, hook them over the top, and you can still access the pond. So that's it. Sorry I lost light, but it is tucked in for the winter. So now I have the whole pond netted. I have the front up because I'm still feeding the fish. This year I did decide to net the entire, well, most of the plantings around the pond as well, including the Japanese maple. It'll help with the leaf cleanup because I do have lots of trees, as you can see, but I did stretch the net tight across both the upper pond and the lower pond. Staked it down with tent stakes, but this will make for a much easier cleanup having it tight around the bottom, so no leaves will get in the around that hard to clean out area this spring. So this should be a lot easier. Everybody's tucked in.